You'd never guess it by looking at them. No trophy case, no dramatic story, just a person quietly doing the same small thing, day after day, while everyone around them waits for motivation to strike. And here's the strange part. The people actually crushing their goals rarely look like they're trying at all. Why does real progress hide so well? Because your ancestors were built to prioritize immediate needs. A hungry stomach, all night, a predator in the grass. These demanded action right now. Long-term achievement, especially the kind that pays off in months or years, must compete with wiring that favors immediate rewards. So the people who succeed at it have learned to work with that wiring instead of against it. And that shows up in 6 quiet signs. None of these signs are dramatic. That's the point. Your ancient brain is exquisitely tuned to notice threats, opportunities, and social rank. But it was never built to track a goal that pays off in 6 months. So the people who actually reach those goals have, often without realizing it, found workarounds. Small tricks that trick an ancient system into supporting a modern ambition. The first is boring repetition. Watch someone who's actually making progress, and you'll notice they do the unglamorous version of the task over and over without needing it to feel exciting. Psychologist Anders Ericsson, known for his research into expert performance, found again and again that mastery wasn't built on inspired bursts. It was built on deliberate, repeated, often tedious practice. Your ancient brain craves novelty. It rewards new and shiny. But real competence is assembled from thousands of unremarkable repetitions that never once felt like a breakthrough. Somewhere along the way, most people absorbed the idea that progress should feel like progress, that each session should bring a visible spark of improvement. But skill rarely announces itself that way. It accumulates the way sediment builds a riverbed, one invisible layer at a time, until one day the shape of the whole thing has changed and nobody can point to the exact moment it happened. They lower the goal until it's almost embarrassing. Ask someone quietly crushing their goals what they did today, and the answer is often smaller than you'd expect. 1 page, 10 minutes, a single email. Researcher B.J. Fogg has spent years studying behavior change, and his work emphasizes making new behaviors small and easy enough to repeat. Because repetition makes a behavior easier to sustain. A small promise kept, over and over, helps turn an occasional action into a stable pattern. Think about how differently we're taught to set goals. Bigger feels more serious. Ambitious feels more committed. But an ambitious goal that collapses after 4 days teaches you that the pattern cannot be maintained. A small, almost laughable goal that survives 40 days teaches something far more valuable. It proves that this particular behavior can be relied upon. And reliability, not intensity, is what eventually becomes identity. They stop announcing what they're going to do. This one surprises people. Shouldn't sharing your goal make you more accountable? Psychologist Peter Gollwitzer studied this question, and some of his research found that publicly announcing identity-related goals can create a premature sense of accomplishment and reduce later effort. So quiet achievers often say less and do more, because talking about a goal can sometimes provide satisfaction before the work is finished. This makes a strange kind of social sense. In small, ancient groups, a spoken intention carried real weight. Saying, "I will help you hunt tomorrow," functioned almost like a contract, and being seen as someone who follows through mattered enormously. Publicly stating a goal can still earn recognition before any result exists. Announce enough goals out loud, and that early approval can begin to feel like progress long before the work is finished. Fourth, they protect boring routines like they're sacred. Have you noticed how progress rarely announces itself with fireworks? It shows up in an ordinary hour, guarded from interruption. People crushing their goals tend to build a narrow window, often unremarkable, and defend it fiercely from anything that feels more urgent but matters less. Ancient humans lived within rhythms shaped by light, hunger, and season. Modern achievers rebuild that kind of structure on purpose. because unstructured time gets eaten by whatever feels loudest, not whatever matters most. Isn't it strange how rarely willpower actually decides the outcome? Most days, the deciding factor isn't discipline in the moment. It's whether a window of time was protected before the day had a chance to fill it with something easier. Ancient environments enforced this structure automatically, through light, hunger, and season. Modern environments enforce nothing. So the quiet achievers essentially rebuild an ancient scaffold by hand, because the modern world will happily hand every unclaimed hour to something louder and less important. Fifth, they treat missed days as data, not failure. This is where most people quietly quit and never realize it. One skipped day turns into shame. Shame turns into avoidance. And avoidance turns into abandoning the goal entirely. But the ones who keep going treat a missed day the way a scientist treats a failed experiment mildly interesting. Not identity, threatening. They ask, what got in the way? Adjust and continue. Self-forgiveness does not always happen automatically. It often has to be practiced deliberately. In an ancestral group, a serious mistake could threaten your standing or even your safety. And shame may have helped discourage behavior that risked social rejection. That response can be useful after a dangerous error. It is far less useful for a skipped workout or an unanswered email. The people who keep their goals alive have learned to separate the emotional alarm from the actual stakes. A missed day gets logged, examined briefly, and released, rather than treated like proof that the entire goal has failed. Sixth, maybe the quietest sign of all, they stop needing to feel motivated before they act. Ask them if they wanted to do the work today, and often the honest answer is no. They did it anyway. Motivation is not a reliable resource. It rises and falls with sleep, stress, energy, none of which particularly cares about your 5-year plan. The people actually crushing their goals have stopped making motivation a requirement. The behavior happens whether the feeling shows up or not. None of these 6 signs look impressive from the outside. No dramatic transformation, no highlight reel, which raises an uncomfortable question. How many people are chasing the feeling of ambition, the vision boards, the announcements, the burst of initial excitement, while never building the boring machinery underneath it? And how many quiet, forgettable-looking people are already winning, simply because their system doesn't require inspiration to function? Here's what makes this oddly hopeful. None of these 6 signs demand talent. They demand structure, small, repeated proof, and a willingness to look unimpressive while it works. Your ancient brain doesn't care about impressive, it cares about consistent. Feed it consistency, and eventually the results stop needing to be announced at all. They simply arrive. So the next time you assume someone's success came from some burst of willpower you don't have, look closer. You'll usually find something smaller and far less dramatic underneath it. And you'd never guess it by looking at them, because the people actually crushing their goals were never trying to look like anything at all.